The local Windows firewall is pretty good, and I don't think it gets enough love. I think it's honestly slept on, and no one really uses it to its full potential because it is like the single source of truth, or at least a source of truth, on one computer, one device, one endpoint where you can control what goes in and out. So you're not relying on some broad network-wide maybe firewall at the gateway, but you've got something between each individual machine. And if you have that managed across a fleet of devices, then you can really lock down what could end up being lateral movement when threat actors, hackers, or malware try to move throughout your environment. So in this video, I want to do a little bit of an experiment. I'm going to use the Windows local firewall and actually block outbound connections from a lot of the different programs that are often used as living off the land binaries. So natural, native, built-in programs on the Windows operating system that can be used and abused by bad actors. Now, before we dive in, let me add like 1,000 disclaimers. Hey, this is kind of just for funsies. You may or may not actually want to do this because, yeah, it's one hardening exercise to make your security posture a little bit tighter, sharper, stronger there. But some of the programs you may really want to maintain and keep internet capability. Outbound connection, you probably still want to allow that for like vital, necessary, maybe system services. So I think we could try it, see what happens if we block everything, and then see if there are any oddballs or things we should exclude from the ban hammer of living off the land binaries. So if you aren't familiar, the LOLBAS, or Living Off the Land Binaries, Scripts, and Libraries resource is phenomenal. It's this catalog and archive of all of the possible, potential programs that could be abused by threat actors to do different things, like maybe upload or download or exfiltrate data out of your environment. And there are tons of these. Now, obviously, I'm scrolling past maybe a couple that, well, are pretty clear that they could be leveraged, like simple cmd.exe, the command prompt, right? Maybe that and like PowerShell.exe or others, we probably don't want to limit and lock down network connectivity, but for things that really should have no business doing things out of the environment, out of the local area network, we could lock it up. And we'll make this a little small programming or coding exercise for us because they offer some programmatic access to this resource with their API. We can go take a look at their API page and you can see all the data could actually be accessed as either JSON, CSV, or YAML. I think in our case, it'll probably be most easiest to work with the JSON data dump. This contains every single LOLBAS entry in a single file, using the same structure as the underlying YAML files that you could track down as part of the GitHub repository. But let's go take a look at what this thing looks like, and obviously there is a lot to it. But I want to try and look through, kind of going backwards just as an example here, something that might be able to download like bitsadmin.exe. Now, this could be available in different paths, different binary locations on the file system. So let's loop through all of these, determine the paths where they could be, test if they're present on our system, and then lock it down with the Windows firewall. Now again, because this is for experiment's sake, if you were to do this thing for real, your mileage may vary. Take it with a grain of salt. Let me add all the disclaimers, whether or not you actually want to do this in production or not. But just for a playground, I'm going to create a snapshot for before LOLBAS, and that way we can kind of toggle in and out if we need to revert in case we accidentally break anything by, disabling a lot of that network connectivity. But let's spin it up. And to make this kind of abstract and fun for us, what I'll do is actually pull down the GitHub repository info, like from that API page. Now, that will require internet connectivity, and I want to script this with PowerShell, so it's something easy we could slap in and out, copy, paste, whatever. But of course, if you wanted to make this a little bit better, or I don't know, your definition of better, obviously the code can be improved, whatever we end up doing, you could just determine or stage this all prior, and then just loop through a bunch of like netsh adv firewall commands. But for our learning, let's go ahead and build out a script. So I'm inside of the Windows PowerShell ISE, or that integrated scripting environment, and actually I want to open that as an administrator. So I want to right click or Control Shift Enter or click Run as administrator. So we have our UAC prompt, because if we're going to be modifying the local Windows firewall, we need to have those admin privileges. This is something that you would want to do as a preemptive measure to harden and lock down your systems so there can't be as much lateral movement potential. Say a hacker compromised this machine, well, now they can't pull down other payloads or maybe use some of those living off the land tools to do other damage. Anyway, let's make our script. We can just put this on the desktop for now. Let's just say lolbass firewall.ps1, looking good. And first things first, let's define a lolbass URL. And let's grab that URL for the JSON object we want to pull down. That's on that page here, the API page for API lolbass.json. Let me copy that clean link. And now let's enter that, paste it in here. Now let's say the lolbass data can actually equal the response for a commandlet when we use invoke rest method on our lolbass URL. Now, let me just try to return out our lolbass data so we can see all of the data that it's already retrieved. Now we want to loop through it. And if we actually were to expand this out, we can see that all of the elements here, if we actually drill down into like the PowerShell object, ultimately we'll have the name and then all the other properties and fields there, including the full path that will include other sort of key value pairs for any of the paths that it might be present in on an endpoint. So let's try to loop through each element there. Let's use a for each, if I can type. Let's say each entry in our lolbass data, and I want to retrieve things out of the PS object here. Yeah, so then we can get the properties and we can go extract the actual value that should be present there. Will that work? Can I just simply echo entry just as a sanity check, or like write host if you're a PowerShell purist, right? F5 on that? Okay, yeah, it spits it all out just fine. Now we have each of the entries, and we want to loop through every single one of the entries' full path value, right? Realistically, we should check if that value exists first. So let's just do if that has a data like set in that property, and we could also extract out the name just as well. Let's get name to be our entry.name. And let's again sanity check. Will that display just fine? Okay, cool. Now we can see all of the files just given their name spat out to us here. So we're looping just fine. And now we can actually do that real loop through for each of them. Let's just say path in that entry full path. In which case, remember, that is just another like hash map or associative array. So we'll need to extract out the path.path from there, if that's not weird or confusing whatsoever. Let's echo that all out, but now you can see, okay, we're getting the actual file system location as we should. Next, we'll need to check if that exists on the endpoint. And really, we're doing that just in case, hey, some other system doesn't have that installed or available, in case it's not, a built-in, but it's other things that could be between different Visual Studio installations or SDK, Windows kits, etc. And all of this really is for your own understanding of the endpoint. And if you're an analyst, like a security operations center analyst, or doing some digital forensics incident response, or you're just trying to harden like a system administrator, it's all good to know. And actually, if you're doing some of that security stuff, let me take a quick little segue to tell you about something really cool. Security alerts are noisy. Some are real threats, and some are, well, not. And figuring out which is which, that eats up time, especially if you're new on the job. But check out Coach by Dropzone AI. It's a free Chrome extension that acts like a heads-up display for your alerts, right inside your browser. Just open an alert and Coach reads it, figures out what you're looking at, and explains what triggered it, what it was designed to detect, and how to dig deeper with expert-level investigative steps. Whether you're a junior analyst trying to level up or a seasoned pro looking to sharpen your game, Coach turns every alert into a learning opportunity without breaking your workflow. And here's the kicker: zero data retention. Your investigation stays private, always. I've got a chance to try it out, and honestly, it feels like the kind of AI tool we should be seeing more of in security. It doesn't replace the human, it augments them. Check out Coach by DropZone AI and see how it can help you think like a seasoned analyst faster. Grab the extension completely for free with my link below in the video description, jh.live/dropzone-AI-coach. Huge thanks to DropZone AI for sponsoring this video. All right, now let's get back to our script. We're looping through it, and now that we've actually determined we've got the variable, the value to reference, a potential path and location on the file system for each and every binary or anything in that LOLBAS project, we can test if that even exists. Let's do a simple if statement, and let's use the commandlet test path, which just should return whether or not that path exists. So if it does, then we can just echo, and maybe we'll build out like a display name. How about that? Display name can equal block LOLBAS given the name that we've already extracted above with the $ prefix for our variable. If that's the case, let me again just sanity check. Let's display all this out and see how many we've got here. I'll hit F5. And okay, it's found a good many of them, but some not all. Probably because a couple have spaces, so we'll want to try to wrap this in single quotes, or double quotes, really. Anything to make it a string. I think double quotes is probably the best PowerShell option here. Oh, that gave us nothing. Huh, that makes sense, actually, because it's kind of using that variable, but we still need to extract the property out of that. What is our error? Illegal characters in the path? The argument should be perfectly fine there. Do some of the paths just not like have the correct representation? Let me use a multi-line comment in PowerShell, just the greater than and less than symbols and the hashtag # octothorpe. Let me take a look at the path once again. F5 that. Are there a couple that just are weird? Oh yeah, they have placeholders here. Like you can see greater than, less than symbols, version and things. Dang, okay. So we're using broad strokes right now, right? Obviously we're trying to loop through all of these and just hit a ton of them. Maybe we should just ignore the ones that aren't valid. Yeah, this is like no default. That's not helpful. Can test path have like an error action? Silently continue? I think it could. So we could just ignore anything else if it's bad news bears. Again, broad strokes, proof of concept, little experiment. We're just kind of playing around the playground right now. Let me try to use that error action silently continue. And then I'm assuming it'll just ignore that block following it, right? How about this? Okay, yeah, remove our quotes. I left those there and they were wrong. Okay, no errors this time. You might have seen that just scroll through. Now we've got a lot of these. So now we have found and determined where on our file system the binary is, and we could just give this to the Windows firewall and say, look, don't allow any outbound connections. Now I was alluding to at the very beginning, we could use like the old school netsh.exe binary and the adv firewall like command in the old school cmd.exe style, but since we're in a PowerShell script and we wanted to do this PowerShell-like, we could use some of the commandlets that are modern now, like Windows 8 and above, really, so you should have them. Get net firewall rule is the one that I want. And let's just see if we even have an existing rule. We can define that to be able to say, oh, look, if we happen to have ran this script previously, or if anything else is just kind of left over, let's validate and make sure we don't already have an existing rule based off of the display name that we've just defined above. So let's use that display name variable, and let's add another error action silently continue so we can be, you know, a little bit hardcore and just cruising through this. I doubt we're gonna have any existing rules because obviously we have not ran this previously, so we should have no output here, and we do not. And this is a little bit slow, right? Now we are cruising through all this. Gonna take a little bit of time to run, but it's doing what we want. Oh, you know, this is like really slow. We're on line 1. We're on line 6,132 because we've already outputted all this kind of previously. So there are probably a lot of these things that it's trying to rip through. The thing is, like, we could use the dash parallel parameter for each if we're in like PowerShell version 7. I think that's the cool, hip, new, modern stuff. But I don't think I'm using PowerShell version 7. I can echo the version table, and yeah, I'm just on 5. Okay, poor boy. We could use jobs to make it a little bit faster. I mean, this is just cutesy, I don't know, experiment code. It really doesn't matter, but just for the sake of demo and for me having to sit through this thing. Or we could just YOLO it and not check if the firewall rule exists beforehand, which obviously you would want to do. That's good practice, but we could YOLO. And we could also obviously write this in something that's not PowerShell. Rip through it in Golang, and it's just super concurrency. Get a compiled binary at least. Let me see like how slow that actually is. Let me just do an if not existing rule, then give me some output so we can at least figure out our pace. I'm sorry, this is just me fumbling around now. Echo display name firewall rule does not yet exist. Go. It's slow as a crawl, dude. PowerShell was not the choice. All right, let's do jobs. I'm sorry. I want to make the stupid PowerShell code a little bit better. Let's have like a paths to block little hash map associative array there. Is that the right terminology, lingo? I don't know. So if it does not exist, then we should add to our paths to block where the path that we've determined can be set to the name of the binary. So then we've processed all this, and at the very end of that loop, we'll now have a built out paths to block list. Does that work okay? Wait, that's going to be just as slow. Oh yeah, because we don't need to do the get firewall check in that case. We just need to determine that these are the ones that we want. So we don't even need to set the display name in that case. We are just going to end up building out that list. Yeah? Yeah? Right, stupid PowerShell code. Any better? Stop the old one, please, and now run this. Much better. How many of these do we have? Let me measure object real quick just to see. We have, oh, thanks. Okay, yeah. Paths to block, don't need the echo on that one. How many we got? Can I just get like count? Is that the one? Okay, 275. Okay, I thought this was gonna be an easy video and this stupid PowerShell was like, nope, too slow. So let's define now an array of jobs, and that way we can do eventually like what will be start job to be able to work through all this, right? We can say like max concurrent jobs as a like limited there, and let's just do like 25. I think we have 275 to rip through, so that's not that bad, I think. So now we do a for each given the key value pair in our paths to block list. Oh, and that we want to enumerate, so get a numerator on that one. Yeah. And then just to see, right? Oh, sorry, forgot a parentheses there. Spit it all out, looking good. Let's check the number of jobs that we have running. So get job, not that. Get jobs where the state is running, and we can check the count on that. If that's greater than or equal to our max concurrent jobs, then I want to chill out. Sleep. That's the one. We can just sleep for a second and let it do its thing. Wait for it to catch up while it's going through the jobbies. But otherwise, we want to get our path, which should be our key value path, our key value pair, sorry, getting the key. And then the name will be the key value p value, right? Yeah. So now our display name can be actually what it should be. Block lolbass given the name. Now we actually add to the jobs that we will run. So jobs plus equals a start job given a script block where we can define the code that we want to run here. This is where we'll do the firewall work. And I think we need a parameter here given the name and path. Actually, display name is probably what we'll end up passing through to that. Now we can do the firewall work, right? Let's check if it exists where we can get net firewall rule based off the display name that we will pass in. Let's add our same error action, silently continue there to ignore the haters. So if that does not exist, we will then add with a new net firewall rule. And we can try to make this a little bit readable. Like let's do our display name given the display name. We'll need to specify the direction. Oh, we need a backtick to escape our new line character here if we are trying to extend that to multiple lines. Outbound should be the direction that we're going to be worried about for the connectivity there. Of course, we want to block that as our action. We'll set the program, so the full path, right? The path of the binary that we are going to try and limit, restrain, restrict. Does not matter what profile of the firewall that we're going to be hitting here, and then actually enabled. Enabled. True. Then we can simply do a little write host and say, hey, we did it. But otherwise, we can add an else statement here. If it does already exist, maybe we just say that it already exists. Now, because this is all part of our script block, that's defined the end of this, correct? So we'll add in our argument list, and that should be the display name and the path that we are working with. Those are the parameters that we pass in here. Good. Now, finally, at the end of all this, we've built out all this plumbing. Let's say now waiting for all jobs to run. And that syntax will now be jobs piped to wait job. And then we don't need any of the output there. So let's pipe that to out null. And then to clean this all up, I think we need jobs piped to receive job. Yeah. And then jobs remove job, because that way we'll be all done with the things. I think this is better now. I hope. Let's try it out. I'll bring up the prompt here and I'll hit, this is when we like do the thing though. So are we ready? I'm gonna try and save this outside of the virtual machine, just so I have a copy in case we need to go back in and out of our VM and like revert snapshot. But I think we're looking good. I'm gonna press F5 and we'll fire it up. What are you doing? What's happening right now? Why don't we have any output? Are we adding firewall rules? Can I just not see it in ISE? Let me open up Windows Firewall. It's slowing down. Virtual machine's not having a fun time right now. All right, Firewall, let me see what you got. Outbound rules. That's kind of cool though, not gonna lie. Okay, so BitsAdmin, right, is a fine, fair example. And you can see that has properly set the path, because BitsAdmin would just about always be used for downloading. And that's not enabled yet? Okay, no, they are. They're it's just trying to load. If I refresh, is there more of them? Yeah, okay, it's cooking. We are blocking all of the things. SSH is now nuked. Nice. CertUtil would be a big one. Like CertUtil is just about always the usual download alongside BitsAdmin from the command line on Windows, right? But like, think about MSHTA, think about CScript. MSHTA, I think specifically because that way you'd oftentimes use like a network location to be able to run an entire like hypertext application file. So PowerShell's doing its thing. If I were to try and now download something with BitsAdmin, given the syntax from lolbass, let me go back here. And then BitsAdmin is a fine example because I think we can download pretty easily with that. Oh no, that syntax is gross. Never mind. Give me CertUtil. Or like wget.exe, or like they have curl now, don't they? Windows has curl now. Is that not here? Fine. CertUtil. Download should work fine. It wouldn't be able to retrieve anything from an external location. Is CertUtil now in our big long list? Yeah, okay, cool. All the CertUtils are. Let me say I were trying to download a payload that's like hosted on ngrok or something stupid. We'll just get like a hook bin on the internet, I guess. All right, requestbin.net. That should be fine. Yep. Give me a URL that I can pull down, pretty please. Okay, cool. We got this thing. Now, obviously, if I were to open up in a new tab and make a request to this URL, it will be logged over here, and you can see that all coming through in the results. Let me clear those out. Now, let me get that syntax and try it on that domain. It should be blocked, so I wouldn't be able to save like any output .text or whatever that would have returned. But if I give it an actual URL to specify here, we'll paste in our specific domain. I'll hit enter here. Request is not supported. Oh, probably needs an HTTP schema. HTTP:// Command completed successfully, but it would not have been allowed via the firewall. Do we have a request? We do. Is my firewall on right now? It's on. Wait a second. We're not actually setting the correct path here. We're setting the literal PowerShell value. Our script is bad. That path is real bad. Look at all these, like, down below. Yeah. You probably saw it. You probably caught it, and I was completely oblivious, and now I made a fool of myself. That is why we made a snapshot. That's why we totally can roll back our VM, ladies and gentlemen, because it's done now. I can't believe that. I needed the path.path. Shoot. I never put the proper key in there. Okay. We're gonna re-roll. You know what? That's the fun of video. Snapshot, revert back to before lolbass. Okay, we're ready this time. We're doing it for realsies. We got it on lock. Let me paste in from our host. Save that as our lolbass firewall. Now let's run this thing with F5. Now let's go take a look at our firewall rules. We can see they are slowly but surely coming to life. Yeah. Okay, cool. I see one block coming through, and the path is actually correct now. Phenomenal. Okay, cool. Now they're coming through. Now let's do our cert util test once again. We got a domain. Let's open up a command prompt. Let's paste in the URL as it should be for a given any output dot text. Let's copy in that actual URL. Now, when I use this, and remember we need that HTTP schema, I'm learning. I'll hit enter here. There we go. Firewall says, nuh-uh, when HTTP cannot connect. Now, here's the thing. Once this script is like fully complete and we have literally like disabled all of the capability from any of the given built-in binaries that it's tracking down, will our machine still boot and like run as it should? That's my question. Because remember, my skepticism, that my concern was, are we actually going to unintentionally clobber anything that just kind of needs internet access for the way that Windows will do what it does? And like in a production environment, I don't know what this would do with anything else that you've actually got going on. So this is all for exploration. I'm going to add again the biggest disclaimer that I possibly can with that. This is just kind of a fun educational extravaganza, but it's done. It has finished. So let me try to reboot. Restart. Fingers crossed. Will Windows do what it needs to do? I might be totally, like, completely wrong. I can log in. Is Edge gonna work? Because I know that was one of the binaries that's like, go to google.com. But Brave's gonna work just fine, right? Yeah, he's cooking. Brave is all fine. Can I, like, use PowerShell to like invoke web request example.com or something? I mean, yeah, okay, that's not gonna be locked. There was no PowerShell.exe because it's the core DLL, like internals to Windows. You can't really turn that thing off easily. But like, if we were to go back to any of the others here in the lolbass catalog, anything that has like a download capability, app installer, bits admin, cert util, of course. CMD.exe can do it real easy. Oh, you just use type. Nice. Expand, fine steering, FTP would no longer behave. So you need to like, and even probably Defender things, stuff for, again, the functional usage of your computer, the things that you might still want to have an exclusion for, or at least avoid through this loop. But fun experiment, I think. Now, again, obviously we were working with broad strokes, and this may or may not do all the things that we would kind of like, but at least the small example with cert util was enough to kind of, I hope, drive the point home. If anything, this was just a silly little excuse for me to crap out bad PowerShell code and then get everything wrong in a video. So, fun! What about SSH? Would that one work? SSH terminal.shop, shout out. Fellas, yeah, we can't get any coffee anymore, huh? All right, that's it. That's the end of the video. Thanks so much for sticking with me for some bad PowerShell code, but hopefully still playing with the local Windows Firewall. Don't sleep on it. Honestly, I think, look, when you use it to what you could do with it for hardening for security, there is still opportunity there. Limit your attack surface, and I really mean limit your internal attack surface, because we are in the world of assume compromise, assume breach. Not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and all the security thought leader, fluff and buzzwords, blah, blah, blah. Hey, please do give some love to our sponsors. I'm really stoked for Dropzone to be part of the family here. Dropzone AI, big love to those folks. And thank you so much for watching this video. Please do all those YouTube algorithm things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.